What's going on, everybody? Thank y'all so much for joining us here at Chad's Media for another post-game recap, our final post-game recap. For everybody at Chad's Media and Front Porch News, I'm Tyler, and I got my partner with me, Grayson McClure. Grayson, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? It's been a while since we've done one of these.
It has.
But it's good to finally do these again.
It is. So, unfortunately, we're doing our final game recap of the year. We just got done watching the regional quarterfinal matchup, Sulphur Springs and Lufkin. Sulphur Springs loses by a final score of 42-32. Can you kind of, before we talk about the game itself, kind of paint us a picture of where we were at coming into this game?
Well, I did expect it was a very low-scoring game. I wasn't expecting that low of a scoring game, but I did expect the physicality of the game just because that's how Lufkin is. They're usually big. They play physical.
You get this deep into the playoffs, and you're getting physical games. You're getting defensive battles.
Yeah, and Corey said it over and over again. Like once you get to the third round, like if you win district, the first two rounds are kind of easy usually. I don't want to say easy, but there's a big jump from second round to third round. It really is, because usually you're playing another district champion. So
yeah, I think that's something like we all agreed. Once you get to this third round, you and I had both talked about, like on the way to the game, anybody can beat anybody if you don't bring your best game, and that goes for both Sulphur Springs and Lufkin. I mean, if you make mistakes, if you don't bring your best game, you will lose. That'll be the final game you play this year.
Yeah, and that's what Corey was saying. Like it's two good teams, one good team has to lose.
Right.
But I did expect the physicality of it. I did expect, usually Lufkin isn't the most skilled team, but they just play hard and they can defend well. They're disciplined, as we saw tonight. Their defense was, and their offense, both very disciplined. They were patient.
Yeah, from an offensive standpoint, that was maybe one of the most patient teams we've seen all year.
Yeah, there were several times where they took at least 40 seconds off the clock just to get
and that's like in the first,
shot.
Second, third quarter.
Yeah, so overall, I think it's kind of what I expected in terms of the way the game was played. Like I said, we missed. Obviously, I couldn't predict this we missed a lot of shots tonight. We didn't do well from the free throw line.
Or from the three-point line.
Yeah.
It was probably the worst three-point performance you had this year, unfortunately.
Certainly. And really the worst scoring night.
Yeah.
We averaged 66 points a game for the season. They held us to 32.
And you scored half of that.
And some of that's credit to
Lufkin's
defense. Lufkin's defense was
for sure. I thought both teams, Sulphur Springs is a good defensive team, but I thought they were great tonight. And, of course, Lufkin was, even better. I did want to ask you to talk about, like, how poor of a scoring night it was. I want to ask you about the offense as a whole because, obviously, from, like, a casual fan standpoint, the scoring is the offense. But it's a lot more than that.
There is. There's a lot of X's and O's.
And it did feel like tonight the offense just, as a whole, wasn't quite there.
Yeah, so I think that's been the main issue with this team all season is their half-court offense. And this is why I think that we had a lot of talented players that, two really unguardable bigs. And Justin Hare, Cordrick Turner.
A team would kill for one unguardable big, and he's got two of them.
But, when there were times when we would play, we saw it against the first time we played Hallsville, like a disciplined half-court defense. We were kind of exposed. And I say that because there wasn't a lot of movement on the offensive end. The ball kind of, it's not moving a lot. It kind of stands still. We run a pick and roll. If it doesn't work, nobody else moves. And we saw, we had over 13 turnovers tonight. And a lot of that was because, if a player picked up his dribble, nobody else was moving to get open, so he kind of just had to throw it away almost.
And we saw that a number of times tonight.
Right. So I think that was, the biggest issue with, we could talk about the missed shots or whatever, but we weren't really getting open looks because there really isn't any off-ball screens happening. There really isn't that many cuts happening. And I mentioned in the broadcast, like even when people are cutting, nobody's really looking for them. Except really the two bigs. So I think that was an issue, and I think, Lufkin kind of exposed that they were like, we're not going to let you play fast like you usually do because we were one of the best teams in the state at getting the ball at the floor. But Lufkin really was like, you're going to play at our pace.
Right. And to your point, like not only sometimes when this team struggles, it is the half-court offense. To the point you're making, outside of a few steals, a few turnovers here and there, it's a missed shot. You get the rebound. Even when you do advance the ball all the way up the court, you get it into Branson's hands, who in my opinion, one of the very best high school basketball players in terms of, controlling the pace.
Yep.
He would get it across half court and he would realize we don't have the numbers, I have to slow down.
Yeah.
And that was the right decision. That was the right call.
Right.
But for a team who really excels in scoring out of transition, Lufkin just made sure you did not do it tonight.
Yeah, and that was in
and
most
credit
teams.
To their coaching.
Yeah, most teams we've played against have struggled. And we got a good team. Like, obviously, we get to the third round, we won district. Like, we're, a couple shots go our way. Like, it's a couple calls go our way. Like, it's a different story. We're in the fourth round. So, it is interesting, but I think that is, like, a thing we need to adjust, really, is learning to make adjustments according. There weren't really many adjustments in the offensive end. Granted, our defense.
I thought this was one of the better, and again, this is a very good defensive team, but even then, I thought this was one of the better defensive performances all year. I mean, I thought they did just a great job on defense tonight.
Right. And
there were a handful of times, not even a handful, there were one or two times where somebody got beat. It was a wide open layup. You and I mentioned it, and that's all I can remember.
Yeah. There was only, our help defense, we recovered on shots well. Some of the shots they were hitting were tough contested shots, and that's what you want to give up is contested shots. And they only scored 42 points.
Right.
Usually, if you hold a team to 42 points, you're like, we did it. Like,
right.
That's a win.
If you would have told me coming into tonight's game, Sulphur Springs allows 42 points, I assume they not only win that game, they win it by double digits,
Right. So, for the most part, and towards the end, obviously their score kind of ran up a little bit because of fouls, and we were pressing, so they were starting to get a little more stuff going. Number 4 for Lufkin started to get going a little bit.
Which I do want to point out, we've seen some really good players this year. We've seen some really good kids, and he's very high on that list. He's a great player.
Yeah, he's very solid. I mean, obviously
he's not a very big kid. He's not someone who can just dominate.
Yeah, people they look at the Peyton Chisholms that will drop 35. But the way he facilitates, it's almost like Chris Paul. I'll give you 15 points, but also I'm just going to run the game.
Right.
So he did good at that. But, yeah, for the most part, our defense looked great. But offensively, it was just nothing was changed. There was a lot of bad shots because there was no movement. And if there's no off-ball movement, it gets very stagnant. And then the defense doesn't really have to work. There's no communication. So – they don't have to communicate. There's no opportunities for them to be confused.
You can help so well in instances like that because you
exactly.
know where your man is. I know I can get back to him.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this game specifically or negative at all. We do want to point out the two bigs, even though Lufkin did a good job trying to contain them, and as soon as Cordrick touched the ball in the post, he was being doubled.
Yeah.
But I thought each of them obviously, had great games again. I think much like the last round, they finished with the same box score, or close to it anyway.
Yeah, Justin Hare, again, another double-double.
Mr. Double-double.
Was rebounding like crazy. He was playing. Justin always plays hard, but, dude, I don't know if you really noticed it, but he was playing hard.
I would argue,
tonight.
It was maybe the hardest I've seen him play.
Yeah, he... there was a few buckets, a few shots that didn't go his way that usually do.
And a couple turnovers that usually don't happen.
Yeah, but dude, he was playing hard. Cordrick, and in a way,
Cordrick
I think was getting beat up.
In a way, I think that's how a couple of those shots and a couple of those turnovers happened because he just was playing that hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're playing that hard, unfortunately, those kind of things happen.
Yeah, but I'd rather have that.
Yeah, absolutely. I 1,000%.
And I like that, and I think he should be proud.
Oh, absolutely, he should be proud.
Last game, I think he should be proud. I think this is a nice transition into us talking about the season. But dude, I was able to play with him some for a couple years, and then his game just kept growing and growing, and I mean, he just was incredible this season, and we saw several players like improve throughout the season, which is a different. You know, as a player, I used to couldn't really realize that, but now, you know, watching every game and literally really watching every game, I see, oh my gosh, Cordrick's gotten crazy good. Branson, like he handles the ball this good. I didn't realize he was this good at handling. Like Caleb's this good of a shooter. But overall, I think, you know, especially those seniors, like that, I think they should be proud of themselves. Casey Arrington, again, he plays hard every single night. Losing sucks. The last game sucks. It's a weird feeling. But man, like,
I mean, we're sitting here talking about this, and like, I remember the final high school baseball game I ever played. Like, I vividly remember it. I know you remember your final game.
Yeah.
Like that, to what level it sucks. Like,
it's a weird feeling because it's the people you grew up with. Right. A lot of these players.
Because even for someone like Justin, who you know is going to the next level, you and I were in that same position. We knew that we could go to the next level. We had those opportunities. Like that one still like sticks with you.
Yeah, and like, you know, I grew up playing with, you know, Boo, LJ, Dede, Cameron Kahn, like, and then once that buzzer sounded, I was like, well, that's it. Like, I'm done playing with them.
Right.
And, you know, you kind of, you see that, and you feel that, and you're aware of that. But overall, I mean, the season was phenomenal. They had some ups and downs, but dude, this playoffs overall, I mean, the first 2 rounds, they looked phenomenal. This third game obviously didn't go the way they wanted it to, but or any of us really wanted it to go, but that happens. But I think they should all be proud of themselves. I think they played a phenomenal season.
100%. And I mean, taking it to a step further than that, I mean, I feel like Coach Shaver should also be very proud. I mean, I don't know how I'm trying to word this, but like, I can't stress enough how tough it is, and like, especially like in my shoes, in my position, I'm the one that's been covering the team for the last few years. I had a ton of people ask me like what to expect this year, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, we have a new coach. Right. I haven't got to meet him yet. I don't know what his style is like. And I think for a team who you've had the success you've had over the last few years, and people praised Sip, and he like 1,000% deserved all of that praise. You know what I mean? Sip was an amazing coach, set this amazing culture, but it would have been really easy to. I just feel like Coach Shaver was in a really tough position, and he came in here, and I think he did a great job of taking what the culture was and not messing with that too much, but also putting his spin on it and also putting his touch on it. And I think it felt like, from my angle as the person that like writes and talks about the team, I felt like he was definitely accepted and embraced from the jump, but like rightfully so. He did a great job this year, I feel like. Yeah,
and you know, it's easy to critique what went wrong in this game. I'm sure you know, he's critiquing
absolutely
some of his decisions, and you know, that's what coaches do. So I don't mean to do that, but like you said, Sip changed.
Yes, 1,000%.
Essentially, I mean, nobody cared about basketball, and he came here and made it a basketball town, which is wild,
dude. Right? So much so that when I got my first writing job here in town, I remember being like, "This is a basketball."
Yeah, and so you know, when he does leave, and you know, you make a state run, and then the next year
it would have been so easy to watch it just crumble.
Right, and so those are huge shoes to fill, and also trying to put your own spin on it, right? Like, you don't want to just completely go out in the left field, but because you see the success Sip had, but you're like, okay, but this is my program now.
Right.
So
you mentioned those are huge shoes to fill. Shaver made him a pair of Jordans, threw a suit on them, and said, these are my shoes now. This is my style, this is my swag, and did a great job with it.
Yeah, I mean, third round, first year here. I'm not sure of Shaver's whole coaching history. But I think this is the farthest he's gone.
Yeah, I believe so. And again, if we have that wrong, we apologize.
And he should be proud of himself.
Absolutely. I mean,
last year we had a lot of these same guys, and we got out second round knockout. And third round is tough, man. We had one of the most talented teams, if not the most talented team in the state, my sophomore year, and we weren't able to get out of the third round. So I don't think it's anything to hit.
Well, then your senior year was also the third round, right?
Yeah.
Granted, you played the number one team in the state, but still.
Yeah, but still, and that's tough. And you know, they almost lost, right? So, I think it's something to be proud of your first year, and now you can only grow from here. You're getting a lot of guys back. You know, you're missing some key players now, but because of graduation, of course. But a lot
Very
of guys
quickly
are coming
before,
back.
if you don't mind, before we talk about moving forward, if you don't mind, can we spend just a couple minutes talking about the guys that will be leaving? Because I've mentioned this in other recaps, but I feel a certain connection to this class because specifically guys like Justin and Caleb, who have been on varsity for a few years, they were kind of the first group that I got to cover like all the way through their career. You know what I mean? And I mean, we can't, I think, talk enough, especially I mentioned those two because those were the ones that were already on varsity, but like Justin and Caleb, man, it's been such a pleasure to cover them for their career. Guys like Grayson, who we have praised every chance we're on camera, but unfortunately that kid's effort and like what he brings to the team is never going to show up in the stat sheet, but he brings it every single night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing I love about this team is I was talking to somebody about this a couple weeks ago. Is you can tell, especially with the seniors, but they all love each other.
Yes.
And there's not really an attitude issue from the outside looking in. Whereas in past teams, it was pretty obvious. There were a couple kids with some attitude issues, and there were some times where, you know, we all loved each other. We all still talk or whatever. But this team just seemed different. Like they had so much fun playing together. So you could talk about how great of a high school career Justin had, or how great of a year Caleb had shooting, or how great like you talk about this, but I think the big thing is how much fun everybody had with each other. Dude, I think that's what high school sports should be.
I have an anecdote further proving that point. So as y'all know, after all the wins and everything, we interview Coach Shaver, and we interview 3 or 4 of the players from that night, just whoever had a good night. After the last win against Midlothian, I was interviewing Cordrick and Justin together. And, I just asked him, how do you feel you're going into the third round of the playoffs? Cordrick, I asked him first, and he made the comment like, hey, this is my first time going to the third round. I'm really excited. I asked Justin, and the first thing he said was, man, I was lucky enough I got to go. This is their first time going to the third round, and I'm so excited for them. I'm going to be gone soon, and it's their turn to do all this stuff. And, like, that's just so further proving what it is you're saying.
Yeah, that was I watched that, and that was super cool. And it is, like I said.
Granted, Justin Harris is the king of professional interviews. But.
Yeah, and third round is just, like I said, the feeling's different. Like, it really
to me, that's like where the playoffs cut off. Like, you have the first 2 rounds, and then you have the third round on.
Right. Yeah, but overall, man, like, these guys, it's weird seeing some of them, like Justin, who's been on varsity basically 4 years. He went to he was on the playoff team with us his freshman year. So it's weird, and, I played with Caleb, so now it's weird seeing all those guys graduate that I played with. And but they all did great, and I really, Justin obviously is playing at the next level. I don't know about what the other guys plan to do in the future, but they're all great dudes, so I know they're all going to do
right. And with Justin, like, we will 1,000% be in touch with him and keep it up with his career at DBU. Like you said, anyone else that goes, like, we will obviously, be keeping up with him as well. I do want to. We have a few minutes left here. I do want to ask. I mean. One, not only do I feel like everyone's head should be up right now, but there is so much, I think, to look forward to and be excited about.
Yeah.
You're moving to 4A. It'll be year 2 with Coach Shaver and the staff, and then you're returning. Like, it's weird because since I started, it was the year after y'all went to state. Then it was your senior year. And going into it, I was like, oh, I mean, they went to state. They lost some guys. And after your senior year, I was like, they lost some guys. And then after last year, you lose LJ and Boo. It's like you keep losing guys, but you keep, and you look at who you're going to be returning next year. It's a pretty, especially your big 3 or big 4, whoever, like, it's pretty strong. You've got Cordrick and Branson and Parker, guys like Malachi and Cole will see, larger, increased roles.
Right, you have those guys, and you have a couple kids on JV.
Yeah, there's a few really good JV kids.
Theo, I don't know his full name. We just all call him Theo.
You've got Theo.
Very athletic. DJ, of course. I don't want to be biased, so I don't want to. But Yeah, but I mean, when you got a guy like Cordrick who literally got better every game, it seemed like, and it's Branson, like.
Okay, real quick, I'm gonna cut you off before we finish. Cordrick literally, like, we came into this year knowing how good Cordrick was, and then it felt like getting close to the end of district's about to start. It was like, Cordrick's even better than we thought he was. And then around the midway point of district, we were like, no, Cordrick is that good.
Like,
and he somehow kept getting better. It felt like he just kept getting better every single game.
Yeah. And, now I have a bigger load on him now with, he's the primary big man. So he'll get a lot more touches down low, I would assume. But then you also have guys like Parker, who was a big key for us defensively with getting deflections and getting us out in transition. And then you have Branson Lynn, who honestly, dude, going into the season, I was wondering, I was like, who's going to handle the ball?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they don't have a traditional point guard. Caleb was never a traditional point guard.
Coming into this year, in my head, Caleb was more of like a shooting guard.
Yeah,
like
when I was in high school, like Branson, he handled the ball for like JV and stuff, but I always thought he was going to be, a
kind
shooter.
Of that same role,
I was. But dude, he knows the ball. I mean, he doesn't really make many turnovers.
Yeah, and one of the main things you and I have praised him on all year long is how good he is at controlling the pace of the game, the flow of the game, literally the ball being in his hands.
Right, and then now you got another ball handler coming up with DJ, of course, who
from what I can see on the JV level has been just great.
Right, and obviously I'm closer to him than most, but I've seen a big jump with him from freshman year to JV. So I'm excited to see, and I know he's wanting to work really hard this summer. So I know he's going to make another huge jump. And
of course we have the man who you and I get
Miles.
very excited about every chance we get. Malachi Miles, he'll obviously have an increased role next year. And I can't wait. If he can take the way he plays this year, which is for anyone who hasn't gotten to watch our broadcast, if you haven't gotten to watch him play in person, he is just energy. He comes in, and I kind of compare him, not on that same level, but like when J.J. Barea would come in for the Mavs during that playoff run, like just good things happened when he was on the floor. Like the pace of the game changed when he would come in, and that's kind of what it is. He's the smallest guy on the floor, and he's getting offensive rebounds.
Right.
Absolutely. He's getting steals, he's getting layups.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I know it's hard. The loss is heartbreaking. It's the end of the season, but dude, next week or whenever they start the offseason, like, it's a new season, and I think it's exciting. I think they still got a lot to look forward to, and I think they're going to find their way right back to the third round and hopefully go farther than that. So
absolutely. Obviously, we don't have superlative awards, all district awards and everything like that. Of course, when those are available, I'll be writing about them on Front Porch News. But you have, just off the top, at least 3 guys who I think will either win a superlative award or be first team all district next year.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, either first team, second team, or honorable mention, right? Really all 7 players, the 7 players that play a lot of minutes.
Dude,
they're all
theoretically, if you told me, and I'm just spitballing, but like if you told me Cordrick won district MVP, Branson won offensive, and Parker won defensive next year, like, I would believe that.
Yeah, well, so I think Justin will win MVP.
No, I'm sorry. I was talking about for people you're getting next year. Yeah, people that could win those awards next year.
Yeah, that.
And like that very well could happen.
Yeah, that could happen. That definitely could happen. Even this season, I mean, we could have.
Oh, absolutely.
Justin be
most of those guys. I bet all of those guys are at least first, second team.
Yeah, no, absolutely, as they should be. So.
I don't have a vote, but if I had a vote, they would be. I'm probably biased, but no, we are about to get out of here again. This really was a great year from this team, and I mean, it was a pleasure of ours to. I mean, I write about the team, so I've been writing about them for years, and I always, try to tell the guys like, hey man, it was a pleasure to get to cover y'all and everything. But this was our first year getting to do this. This was our first year getting to broadcast and call the games. It's our first year getting to do this. And man, I want to thank you. Like, this has been awesome to do with you. Nobody in the world I'd rather be doing this with. But I also want to thank y'all. Y'all have no idea how much we appreciate it, how much it means to us, like, especially when we talk about calling the games, doing the play-by-play. One, we started during the middle of the year. Y'all had no idea we were going to be doing it, and yet y'all still started watching, and by the end of it, we're having, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people watching us live. And y'all are talking in the chat. Y'all are interacting with us as we're doing it. Literally, the last few games I've gone to, when Corey and I, or when you and I walk into the arena, people stop us and like, hey Tyler, hey Corey, hey Grayson. It's like, I'm gonna say this like 1,000 times, but y'all don't know how much I mean. Like, thank y'all so much. Like, we appreciate it so much, and we can't wait to be doing more of it. Obviously, I'm not saying anything, but like, there's gonna be more. This is not the end of this. There's gonna be more and more content coming in the future. But I just want to make sure y'all are aware, both you and everyone here at Chaz Media, but also the people watching, how grateful and how appreciative I am of it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like, seeing how many, like you said, like, nobody knew we were gonna do this, and
right.
We just started it, put it on YouTube, and then all of a sudden, now we're here and we're getting a lot more views
right.
than any of us expected.
Right.
And
if you'd have told me before we did our first game how many views we have just from tonight's game a couple hours after it ended, I'd be like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is it's humbling. It does mean a lot. There's a lot of kind words, and they don't go unnoticed.
No, not at all.
They're all felt. So we do really appreciate it.
Again, for sure. And man, to the seniors who graduated tonight, like, again, dude, it was a pleasure to get to watch y'all and to get to cover y'all.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
Grayson, any final words before we get out of here for our final game recap of the season?
Just ready for next November.
Yeah, we're already ready for the next one. Again, I know I just said all this stuff, but thank y'all so much for watching, not only tonight, but all year long. On behalf of everybody at Front Porch News and Chaz Media, I'm Tyler Lennon.
Grayson McClure.
We will see y'all hopefully soon.